So this week I was perusing my local theater listings and I was like, well, I've already seen Nope. I have no interest whatsoever in Bullet Train. And Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is a terrible title. And I want A24 to start funding things that are easier to say.
Who wants to play Bodies, 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 Bodies?
But then I saw a movie called Fall. I looked it up and there's like an 8-minute trailer online that spells out every single plot point of the movie. I watched a few seconds of that and I was like, all right, I'm afraid of heights. It's only 90 minutes long. Let's try it. I gotta tell you, it's the most fun with a movie I've had all year.
This is sick. Damn it, Hunter. What are you getting us into?
It's kind of a fascinating anomaly to me because I think it's objectively stupid and I can point to a lot of stuff in the movie that's wrong, but I loved it. I laughed out loud. I was thrilled. What more does monkey brain need? Nothing more. So I've seen it twice now. The second time I watched it with my mom, who is also terrified of heights, and I secretly recorded her reactions. This review will be littered with spoilers. If you're just wondering if you should see it, I highly recommend. The writer-director is this guy Scott Mann, whose previous work includes a bunch of fake movies starring Dave Bautista. He did a pretty great job, if I do say so myself. Before the movie even starts, we get the montage of the 46 production houses that all threw a couple dollars into the hat to get this movie made. Always a mark of quality. The one that stuck out to me was BuzzFeed Studios, which I didn't know existed. I guess their dying company needed diversification. Right off the bat, you notice that this movie is really well shot. The DP's name is McGregor. It's just McGregor. I'm sure he never gets that. His previous work includes a Pop Smoke music video, along with that Vivarium movie, which stars Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots, which is an objectively silly name. The movie opens with our main characters climbing, and their boyfriend falls to his death. Oh no! We cut to 51 weeks later, which made me laugh because it was so specific. I know it's nitpicky, but isn't that odd? 46 months later. Our main character is textbook movie depressed. We pan around her apartment, and there's just dishes piled up. There's even a comical fly buzzing sound effect that they add. Then we see her at the bar drinking like a whiskey rocks by herself. It's perfect. And then they just straight up do the Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad thing. She picks up the phone and calls her dead boyfriend so she can hear the voicemail, which she's presumably been doing all year. And then she cries softly to herself at the bar. Go home. No one wants to see this. So she stumbles out of the bar, runs into Negan, who tells her to get her shit together, and she goes home and tries to kill herself, but she's rudely interrupted by her friend, who tells her that she's got a plan to climb a big-ass tower. There's your inciting incident, folks.
I have something that's planned, and I need a partner in crime.
The B67 TV tower.
I noticed both times I watched it that they licensed one song and one song only, and that would be Cherry Pie by Warrant, which is, I think, a song that everyone knows but no one really likes. They get their money's worth from that license, let me tell you. I think we hear it like 4 times. So they decide to climb this big-ass tower, and the biggest conceit of the movie, and the dumbest thing by far, is that they don't tell anyone where they're going. Like, I could understand if... What's her name again? Right. Bex. Our main character is Bex, and the blonde is Hunter. That's, of course, it's Hunter. We hear the name Hunter like 150 times during the movie.
Damn it, Hunter. Hunter, how do we get down?
Hunter, no! Hunter!
I could understand if Bex wouldn't tell Negan because she's depressed and doesn't want to talk to him or whatever. But does Hunter not have anyone in her life? It's crazy. Oh well. On the way there, Hunter, the blonde girl, is showing Becca a picture of the tower on her phone. And Becca just swipes to the next photo, which is a boomer tier cardinal sin. But the next photo is Hunter with a mocha-colored arm around her. And they had this little exchange like, oh my god, who's that? You haven't told me about a boy. And she's like, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. And you're like, okay, she was banging the dead ex-boyfriend. Got it. But if you're hiding this huge secret from your friend, wouldn't you just not have a photo proving your infidelity on your camera roll? And if you did, why would you just hand your phone to her? Like, it's insane to me. I would have a death grip on that thing. Nope, this is the tower. Thank you. She goes further than that, though. It's later revealed that she has a personal phrase from the dead ex tattooed on her ankle. It's like, were you planning on wearing high socks every time you went to your best friend's house? If the phrase meant that much to you, maybe you should just invest in a custom t-shirt that can be ripped off and thrown into a fire at a moment's notice. So anyway, they get to the tower and they begin to climb. And from this point forward, I pretty much love the movie. And both times I watched it, I was just amazed and wondering how in the hell they filmed this.
One rung at a time.
See? It's easy.
Turns out they actually did build a 100-foot tower out in the desert and craned up the actors after every take. The practical nature of the tower they filmed on really helps, I'm sure, but most everything we see other than the immediate tower was CGI, and it all looks fantastic. It's remarkably impressive. The sound design in this movie is also awesome. As they're climbing, you get all these shots of screws clanging and the ladder rattling, plus the sound of gigantic pieces of metal scraping against each other. And overall, that is the howl of the wind. It makes the tower feel like an ancient beast or something. It's sick. As they're climbing, we also pull back and get these awesome wide shots of the tower and the desert in the background. It's gorgeous. So there are tons of moments of genuine craft in the photography department. And this is when it starts to get super tense as well. They do this thing over and over in the movie where they have a character framed up and they just pan down to the open air beneath them, and it makes your stomach lurch. It works every single time.
Remember, only look up.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Anyway, that's enough praise for now. Let's get back to shitting on this thing that a lot of people worked really hard on. Dog barking. There are two platforms on the tower, one like mid of the way through up, and then the top one that they eventually get stuck on. And both of them are see-through. Like picture a grate, a metal grate. That's what they're standing on in both cases. Despite that, both times they reach a platform, Becca does this thing where she loses Hunter for a second over the top of it, but at no point would she not be able to see right through to the other side. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be a moment of tension, but it makes no sense whatsoever. It's very silly. Hunter, where are you? I'm right here. The movie is also very PG-13. They never say the F word. It's always frickin', which is never not silly. According to IMDb's trivia section, this film's original dialogue included over 30 F-bombs, but was dubbed to make this PG-13 when Lionsgate picked up the rights to distribute. This was done using AI dubbing technology that alters mouth movements. I had no idea that existed. Isn't the future fascinating? It made the movie worse. Way worse. Can you imagine being in this situation and not screaming the word fuck at the top of your lungs every 8 seconds? My mom did that shit in the theater.
Oh shit. My stomach is still going.
How?
Oh hell.
I don't know. Concentrate on something else.
Oh
like,
shit.
Hiking.
So they arrive at the top platform, which is about 10 feet across in all directions, and it has a pole sticking out of the middle of it. It would be insanely windy up there to the point where you wouldn't be able to hear the other person you were with, but it's a movie. I know they can't do that. That's forgivable. What is not forgivable to me is the fact that they aren't concerned hardly at all with the pole in the middle. They are like looking over the edge and like just dangling their toes. If I was up there, I would be glued to that thing. So they're up there doing white people shit, like hanging off the side to get a picture, and they take a moment to scatter the dead ex-husband's ashes. So then Becca says a little thing about how he was a great guy and that she misses him, which causes Hunter to cry. As an audience member, you're supposed to go, she crying? What's going on there? But crying is the normal human emotion to have in that circumstance. She was there when he died also. It's probably just as traumatic of a memory for her. Anyway, they eventually decide to head back down the tower, and the ladder breaks, which is a genuinely thrilling sequence. Oh, no. So they're stuck up there. All they have on them are their climbing harnesses, a length of rope, and both of their phones, which don't have any service. Plus, they find binoculars and a flare gun in a little emergency hatch. Their backpack also fell down out of reach on a platform thing beneath them. This is when the movie gets your gears turning. I love stuck in a place movies because they make you think critically about what you would do in that situation. The girls are initially optimistic and they try a bunch of stuff to get help, but they never try to climb down. I don't know about you, but pretty much the entire time I was thinking, let's get down to business, to the feet, the hands. They have the rope, but they never try to do the Mulan thing. What they do instead is watch videos on their phone of the dead boyfriend that they were both banging, And you're like, conserve your battery, you idiots! What are you doing? Your phones are one of the few resources you have. This is a smaller gripe that I mentioned earlier, but Becca calls Hunter by her name, Hunter, about 400 times in the movie. And like, they're best friends. When was the last time you called your best friend by their name? I don't think I've done it since I met them. Hunter, be careful. Hunter, we're stuck on a tower. Anyway, one of their first ideas is to drop one of their phones to the ground to see if they can send a message, because they know they have service down there. They smartly decide to pad the phone in one of their shoes and toss it down, and then we get this cool shot of the shoe going all the way down. I'm like, good job, McGregor. So some of their decisions are good, but then there's common sense stuff that just goes right over their heads. It eventually gets dark, and they get sleepy, and Becca nods off and almost falls off the tower. And you're like, tie yourself to the pole. Tie yourself to the pole. You're a professional rock climber. You should know to do this. They should both be tied to that fucking pole 100% of the time. After a day with no water, they decide to try to retrieve the bag on the platform beneath them, which has a bottle of water and a drone in it. And this begins the most critical part of the movie. The plan is to lower Hunter down as much as possible and then have her grab the bag and then climb back up. It's a good plan. Unfortunately, it becomes infuriating because they lower her on the wrong side of the platform. I think the platform's a hexagon, and the bag is beneath this quadrant, but for some reason they lower her on this quadrant. And so she's like swinging and trying to get there. I'm like, no, you just move the thing over here, and then she goes straight down. Why? My only thought is that's the only way the shot looked good. So she can't reach the bag, and she decides to unclip herself from the harness and make a jump for it, which is insane, but I'll allow it. My mom about shit her pants. So Hunter's sitting on top of the satellite platform below, and she uses a selfie stick to reach out to the rope to attach the backpack to it. And again, you're screaming at the screen, just move the rope, but they don't. So she successfully attaches it, and the backpack is hanging there, and then Hunter jumps for it. It's a pretty thrilling moment. Hunter, luckily, caught the backpack again, so we're all good. Becca tries to pull her up while she climbs, but Becca lets the rope slip, and so she falls, and again, they have the silly moment of her not being able to look over the edge. It's like the moment in Hereditary when Alex Wolff can't look into the rearview mirror, but again, it's a see-through grate that makes no sense. Hunter does catch the bag again, but on the way down, she hurts her hands on the rope. So Becca has to pull her all the way up by herself. She gets her out there, she takes a sip of water, and she offers it to Hunter, who's like, no, we should conserve it. And then they just don't, and they drink the rest of the bottle that night. But now they have the drone, and the idea is to write a note, attach it to the drone, and fly it to the nearest town, which they can barely see with binoculars, like, way in the distance. And at no point is there a question of whether or not the drone is going to have the range to be able to get there. You see that dot on the horizon? It's about 15 miles out. You're going to want to fly the drone over there. They try once, but they only get a few feet out before realizing that they're going to need a full charge battery to make it the whole way. They set up earlier in the movie that you can charge something with a light socket, which I will be taking at face value because I cannot be bothered to look it up. So Becca brings the drone back and then shimmies up the pole with the charger to plug it into the light at the very tip top of the tower. And you're still like, but she doesn't do the Mulan thing again. So she gets up there and removes the casing, and it's just a light bulb. Like a light bulb. Shouldn't it be a huge industrial light or something? I don't think the guy that changes that thing is stopping at Home Depot on the way there. So she's at the top of the pole, and she's hanging on for dear life, and she gets attacked by a vulture. Those dang nasty boys. But she charges the drone, shimmies down, and flies it 16 or 17 miles to the nearest town. And she gets right to the door of the hotel in the town when the drone gets comically obliterated by an 18-wheeler. It's one of the biggest laughs of the movie. So it all seems hopeless. Becca is out of energy, ready to give up, and then we get the twist. You could probably see this coming if you'd seen a movie like this before. Hunter tells Becca that she's actually a figment of her imagination, and she's been lying dead on the satellite dish since she fell during the backpack retrieval. The execution of the twist is a little clunky, but But the second time I watched it, there's a ton of clues to pick up on. First, right after Becca drops the rope, you hear a loud slam, which you don't think anything of, but that's of course the body hitting the satellite dish. There's also the hand injury, which is perfect because it gives Hunter the excuse to not do anything from that point forward. She also acts noticeably spacier and just off after the fall, which could be attributed to exhaustion, but in hindsight is because that bitch is dead. Also, when Becca gets attacked by the bird when she's charging the drone, she drops her backpack accidentally, and there's a weird moment where Hunter just watches it fall, and it seems out of character, like she would have jumped and tried to grab it. They actually remark on that when she comes down, like, why didn't you go for it? Again, hindsight, because she ain't there. So, lots of good stuff. The twist gets 2 thumbs up in my book. We're finally nearing the end now. I talked about this a lot more than I thought I would. So Becca is very weak at this point. She's had no food and very little water for 3 days. And Hunter, who we now know is just Becca's brain, tells her that she needs to get some food in her. And Becca's like, but Hunter, there's no food up here. And she's like, there's always something. And she looks right at the camera. And you're like, oh, she's going to eat the bird. Okay. Got it. But then the movie tells us what's happening again. She plays dead until the bird gets close enough. She grabs it by the throat and Triple H slams it to death, which is pretty badass. But while that's happening, we get a voiceover that's like, you need food. You're out of energy. You have to eat something. It's like, we get it. What did they think the audience was going to forget that she was hungry? Why on earth is she killing and eating that poor, wonderful Boyd? So then a storm rolls in and she's watching generic stock footage of a daughter and her dad. And then she decides to record a final goodbye to her father, Negan, which made me laugh because there's a jump scare in her emotional goodbye. The emotional recording ends with a lightning strike jump scare. So I'm just picturing her dad sobbing over her corpse and watching the final video and being like, oh, my poor baby. Oh, Jesus. So finally, after she eats the bird, she regains enough energy to climb down and reach the platform that Hunter's dead body is sitting on. And she's covered in blood and feathers and shit. And then when she lands, she locks eyes with the buzzer, who had been previously feasting on Hunter's delicious stomach. And she locks eyes with the buzzer covered in blood like Rambo, and she's like, you want a piece of this? And the buzzer's like, oh, Jesus Christ, she's got Mike's blood all over her. Fuck that. It's later in the day. So the bird moment is great. But the biggest laugh in the movie comes directly after that when she uses Hunter as egg drop padding. She literally puts her phone in the stomach hole that the bird was eating out of and pushes Hunter over the edge. It's awesome. The plan works. She sends a message to her dad, who calls 911. The day is saved. She gets out okay. Credits roll. So what did we learn? I feel like this movie is a bizarre mix of well-made and stupid. It's like 2 forces constantly at odds with each other the whole time. Despite its flaws, like I said, it's the most fun I've had with the movie in a long time. If you haven't seen it but for some reason watch this review, I guess see it still, even though I gave away every single plot point in the movie. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there, but this one felt unique. Thank you. Bye.